In an age where so many of us are worried about being replaced by AI, we're going to look at the story of a man who did the exact opposite. He didn't just survive the rise of the machines, he actually taught them how to have a soul. This is the incredible story of Milton Malala.
To really get Milton, you have to understand where he's from, a place called Gelukstad. And this quote, man, it just says it all. This wasn't just some town, it was a proving ground. The air itself was this constant reminder that just getting by was a daily fight. And that kind of environment, well, it breeds a special kind of creativity, one born from pure necessity.
And right out of that dust, you get our guy, Milton. But he wasn't just a survivor. The source material calls him an alchemist of the streets, which is perfect. He just had this amazing gift for turning something totally ordinary into something magical. He saw potential where everyone else just saw, well, nothing.
And this really gets to the heart of his early gift. I mean, look, anyone can sell an orange, right? But Milton, he sold an experience. He'd literally tell his customers to taste the sunshine. He wasn't just moving fruit, he was connecting with people, turning this simple thing into a story, a feeling. That was his brand of alchemy. And this whole idea of transformation, it became his entire philosophy. While all his competitors were just seeing transactions, money for goods, Milton saw a story unfolding. In his world, the customer was always the hero, and the product, that was just the tool they needed to win their own story.
But just as he's mastering this very human art, the ground beneath his feet starts to shift. That human touch he was so good at was suddenly up against a massive new competitor. And that brings us to the real conflict of this story, the arrival of the machines.
And what a way to describe it. This wasn't some slow, gradual change. It was a swarm. AI and algorithms just descended on the world of sales, and they were eating up everything in their path. The old ways of doing business were getting devoured, and it was happening fast. So let's break this clash down. On one side, you've got the human touch, intuition, a little bit of charm, the ability to read someone's face. On the other side, you have the algorithms code, these cold recommendation engines, chatbots that never sleep, and data dashboards that took the place of a good old-fashioned handshake. It was a total culture shock.
And for most of Milton's peers, the reaction was just total surrender. For a whole generation of salespeople who built their careers on personality and gut feelings, it really felt like the end. The rules had changed so completely, they figured the game itself was just lost.
But here's the turn. While pretty much everyone else was walking off the field, Milton saw something totally different. He started asking this question you see right here, a question that would change absolutely everything. He didn't see an ending. He just saw a new set of rules.
And asking that question, well, it led to the pivotal moment in his whole journey. Instead of trying to fight this unstoppable wave of technology, Milton made a choice. He was going to learn to surf it. He decided to understand the machine, not to run away from it.
And here was his big aha moment. He realized that, machines are incredibly powerful, but they have these huge fundamental weaknesses. They've got tons of data, but zero wisdom. They have all the processing power in the world, but no purpose. They could spot patterns all day long, but they couldn't create the poetry that actually connects with a human being. So he dove right in. He taught himself machine learning, but not just to operate the tools. No, he wanted to understand them on a much deeper level. He learned what they were good at, what they craved, which, of course, was data, and most importantly, where they were completely and utterly blind. And all of this led to the incredible thing he created. This is the moment where Milton stops being a student of the machine and becomes its teacher. This is where he fuses silicon with soul.
So here's how his method worked, in 4 simple steps. First, let the machine do what it does best, find a pattern in the data. But then, and this is the key, Milton would infuse that pattern with a human story, with wisdom. Step 3, the algorithm predicts the perfect moment to engage with a customer. And finally, the poetry. Milton taught the system how to use that moment to make a real, genuine connection.
Of course, a theory is just a theory until you test it. Milton's first real test was a struggling electronics company. Where everybody else just saw a chart of declining sales, his wisdom allowed him to see something else. Disconnected people. They weren't heroes in a story anymore. They were just numbers on a spreadsheet.
And the result? He launched an AI platform built entirely on his principles, one that actually listened and created personalized stories for customers. And in just 3 months, the company's revenue tripled, an absolutely incredible validation of his entire idea.
Okay, so a success like that completely transformed his mission. This wasn't just about his own survival anymore. It was about creating a whole new philosophy for an entire industry, a way for human beings to actually thrive right alongside AI.
And this quote became the core of his teaching. He would explain that AI is an amazing tool. It's like a megaphone for your voice. It can show you where to aim, sure, but the why, the purpose behind pulling that trigger, that has to come from you, from a human.
Now, of course, when you do something this revolutionary, you're going to get critics. Some people argued that what he was doing, fusing empathy with AI, was just a new, more powerful form of manipulation, that he was weaponizing tech to play on people's emotions.
But Milton's response was just so simple and so profound. He completely reframed the whole argument. He said, I'm not teaching machines to be more human. I'm teaching humans how to use machines to matter again, to prove that their skills were more important now than they had ever been. And that brings us to the ultimate lesson of his whole journey. It's a truth that connects all the way back to those dusty streets, where a young boy first figured out how to sell not just oranges, but stories. His deep, profound belief was this: it doesn't matter how smart AI gets. It can never, ever replicate the original, most powerful piece of technology we have, and that's the human heart. The ability to connect, to inspire, to convince someone, that is one algorithm that you just can't code. So when you really look back at his incredible story, you realize that his greatest achievement wasn't tripling a company's revenue or building some empire. No, it was selling an idea that was way more valuable. In an age of anxiety and fear about the future, he sold people hope. And that's where we'll end it, by turning Milton's story back on all of us. As the machines around us get smarter and smarter, the most important thing we can do is get more human. So what is it for you? What is that unique wisdom, that purpose, that poetry that only you can bring to the table? That's the question we are all left to answer.